Hey everybody, welcome to Fishgistics. We are here at Baja HQ getting ready to share some off-road goodness with you. Hope you just enjoyed that Desert People 15. I can't believe it's 15 episodes later, but Cameron Steele here, driver of the number 16 trophy truck, and next to me my co-host, driver of the number 31 trophy truck. You may have heard of him. His name's Andy McMillin. Andy, welcome to Baja HQ and welcome to the co-host duties here at Fishgistics.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been a guest on here a couple times and looking forward to interviewing our guests and getting some tough questions out there. So it should be a fun time.
You know, when one of the hosts starts off with tough questions, he says it. That means he's already been kind of thinking. It's already been rolling in his head.
I've been planning for this one.
So we're gonna have an interesting panel a little bit later on. We'll call that the Trophy Truck Dork Session. Myself, Andy, will be joined by Christian Sourapas, Josh Daniel, Johnny Angel, and Jesse Jones, also known as 2J. But before we get to that, we're going to start with some of the other winners from Vegas to Reno and some of the other heroes of the sport. And we're going to transfer over so we can open it up and you can see the rest of our crew here. Riding on the Yamaha, winning the motorcycle division at Vegas to Reno, Jacob Argubright is here.
Hey Cameron, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, buddy. And next to him is Cody Parkhouse, winner in Class 1. He's an official buggy dork and the best buggy dork at Vegas to Reno, if you don't mind me saying so.
We did what we could.
Right on. And next to him is AJ, who is the son of 2J. So Jesse Jones, offspring, Austin Jones. Welcome, AJ.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool to have you. Fourth at Vegas to Reno, correct?
Yeah, we pulled fourth.
All right, so before we get going, Andy, we're going to talk trophy trucks a little bit later. Let's talk a little bit about the course, the setup, what people might not have known. Was it a very typical Vegas to Reno? Was it, the way I didn't go? Mm-hmm. I was in Cabo riding waves, so that was pretty cool, hanging out with my wife and daughter.
That sounds pretty nice.
And I started weighing that out, and I was like, Cabo?
Yeah.
Yes, over here, Cabo.
Yeah, that's tough.
But, fast, no pre-running.
Yeah. Yeah, Vegas to Reno is, it's in August. It's in Nevada. Starts just outside of Vegas, ends just outside of Reno. Super hot. The temperature's in the hundreds most of the day. There's some water actually on the south side of the course, on the southern part, the first maybe 150 miles, which made it pretty interesting and knocks a lot of dust down. And for all the guys out there racing, there's nothing like racing without a lot of dust. You get to drive up on guys, you can catch guys easier. It's less sketchy in the dust because there's not much dust. And yeah, so it's just epic conditions. No pre-running. So it's pretty much drive what you can see and hope you go fast enough to win, but slow enough to where you don't crash, on something you weren't planning for. So it's a really fun race. I really enjoy the Vegas to Reno race because it really, it really shows the driving talents of the fast guys, the guys who finish up front, because it's all raw talent. There's no pre-running involved. There's no line choices. It's just drive what you can see and may the best man win.
Right on, I like that. It is also the longest continuous off-road race in North America.
Right.
It's one of the most heralded races of the year, so to be able to win Vegas to Reno is pretty cool. And he was just talking about the thunderstorms that came around and dumped some water. Jacob, you were on a dirt bike. Was that sketchy, or are you just able to get offline? I mean, some of those graded roads, when it gets a little thick with the mud, it's got to be squirrely.
Where'd you start? Where'd you start physically?
Fourth,
okay.
So my teammate, Max Eddy, actually started. He rode to pit 2. I heard you guys talking about the lake bed. He said there was a lot of water, and when it's wet, you have to enjoy it. For the most part, it was like a dream. I never thought I'd have wet dirt at Vegas to Reno. And I got on pit 2 and I went to pit 4, and whatever the lake bed flat area, it was slick. Run a little bit different rear tire than normal, and it was like ice. Like I was down to second gear, hitting puddles and.
Skis out?
Yeah, skis out. Yeah.
That means your feet out for those of you that don't ride dirt bikes.
Yeah, skis out. But the rest of it was like chocolate cake. It was so good.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I know that one spot in the middle of the track where they run you like kind of out and around, you come back across that lake bed. Is that the one that was like grease lightning?
Yeah.
Dang, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Yeah, it's
just
pretty gnarly. Especially when you're not pre-running. It rained, I think, the night before.
Yeah.
So you're not ready for it.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden you're going 100
fresh.
miles an hour, and then
I mean,
you're not sure how deep that puddle is either.
Was it wet for you guys, or did we?
Yeah, it was wet.
It was wet. You didn't take anything.
There were times.
The bikes don't clear too much. Yeah. The trophy trucks hit it. It's like,
there are times we're hitting some mud. It's Vegas to Reno, so we're hitting it at 100 miles, no problem, and it's all of a sudden you have no more control. You just.
Yeah, you start hydroplaning pretty easily.
Just kind of going for it. So you guys sound like you had a strategy where it was 2 pits on, 2 pits off. Did you guys do that all the way through, or what?
Yeah, sort of. So I did. So Max started from the start to pit 2. I did from 2 to 4. He did 4 to 8, and then I did 8 to 11, and then he did 11 to 13. I did 13 to the finish.
Wow, there's some strategy.
That's a lot of logistics.
And how about jumping around? I mean, you don't want to risk missing the bike. I mean, obviously, we think about if we're doing a driver change, we try to be there, but we normally don't get out, get back in, get off, get in. It's like that's a lot to consider.
Yeah, and usually, I run a little bit longer, like riding segment, but Max convinced me to do shorter, and he's done this race for the past 15 years. And,
did it have to do with hydration or getting off, getting hydrated?
No, just. The less time you spend out there, the faster you can go. The longer you go on a bike, you get worn out.
Well, I'm usually sitting down, so I don't get as tired. Elbows down, and then when I stop at the pits, I have a cheeseburger.
For Vegas to Reno, for dirt bike races, it's pretty easy. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're doing King of the Motos or...
But it is sketchy because you're going so fast.
Yeah, it's sketchy, but you know what? I've done it for the past 3 years, and I've really learned the course, and I think that helps a lot. Mm-hmm. And, experience plays a big part.
Especially dirt bike riders. I mean, those guys, a lot of the fastest guys in four-wheel vehicles now came from dirt bikes, right? The ability to read terrain and know your surroundings, know where to push, where not to push.
I think the reason why the bike guys are good when they get in the trucks is because they're like, ha, nothing's going to hurt me now.
Yeah, probably.
Just keep going, right? Just smash through it. Like point. On the bike, you're like, I'm gonna check up right here.
A lot more
the
vulnerable.
Truck, you're like, let me have a drink. I'm like,
right.
Go. No, exactly. Like at the riders meeting, they were saying, when the bike guys get in dust, you have to slow down because we don't want to hit anything. But you guys, not so much. You guys can bump each other and be in the dust a little bit. And I was like, oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Class 1 race. I mean, you guys, where did you start, Cody, and how did it work out? Because I know one of the biggest complaints the buggy guys is they have to deal with slower trophy trucks, but at Vegas to Reno, you guys are mixed in based on qualifying position, which, just for the record, I don't agree with. Sorry. But, I mean, how was it for you? Did you have to do a lot of work with trophy trucks? Or because the one car is more nimble, and in some spots that's going to be quicker. I think maybe when you get like 70 miles into the course, you get in that first real tight spot. Is that a little further than that? So anyway, how was it?
I can't remember. It was too long ago.
Yeah, we ended up getting a flat in qualifying.
You can say you hate trophy trucks. It's okay. It's
I don't hate trophy trucks.
You can say anything you want.
I drove one of yours one time.
And you did a very fine job. It's still out there if you guys want to come back and drive it again.
But we got a flat in qualifying, so we had to start fairly far back. We were 27th off the line overall. I think we were 4th in class or something. But so yeah, we were sitting in a lot of dust in the beginning, and up until we hit mile 50 where all the water was, we were lucky to see the front bumper for the most part. And then once
it wasn't a watered racetrack like everybody's leading to believe.
From 50 to about 150, it was a watered racetrack. And it was really nice, other than the sketchy mud sections. But so there we were able to run it up a little bit and push a little bit harder, and that's kind of probably where we were able to catch the leaders and stay with the leaders because of that, because there was no dust for a while.
It seemed like CJ had a little bit of a run going there early. Was that something you were concerned about, or where was that? How was that mixing in?
He had a.
You can say not really if you want to.
Yeah.
You can say
really
that. You can say run. Cameron, you're wrong. You can say that, right?
It seemed like he had a run because he was up front, but our splits, we were running the same splits as he was.
So there you have it. Inaccurate information right here on Fishgistics.
So it's kind of one of those normal...
Hey, guys, by the way, if you're watching at home, feel free to share, feel free to like, feel free to comment, and feel free to hate the commentary team because I don't really care. Andy might be a little more sensitive.
No, I'm good.
He's good?
I got
so you can throw the daggers all you want, and you can ask questions of our panel. You can start teeing up questions. And, of course, if we're wrong, feel free to say it. Austin, do you have anybody that's making some noise over there?
No, nobody's talking crap yet, but give them time, they will.
Okay, sweet. So Austin Farner, Fish, is over there running the control panel. And I want to get into this. We'll get back to you, Jacob. But, Cody, you're racing with your dad. Mm-hmm. And, obviously, you guys have a huge lineage in off-road racing. Parkhouse Motorsports, Parkhouse Tire. I mean, you guys are, legends inside the sport. Is it weird at all? And how cool is it to be able to race with your dad?
It's really cool.
Is there pressure because of all his success when he was younger?
No, there's not really any pressure. I mean, he's never really put that pressure on me. So it's great. It's super fun. It's something we definitely relate to and talk about all the time, even when we're at work and stuff. But
so I call my partner when I race, like I raced with Josh Daniel for a while, which you can obviously imagine the things I said to him. Race with Pat Dean, I call names, I give him a hard time, I'm like, you're too slow here, and they'll do the same to me. But when you're father-son, that's a little bit tougher sometimes.
Yeah, we can't really call. Well, he can call me out all he wants. He's my dad, but I can't really call him out as much because he's kind of everything behind our race.
He's the
program.
patron. He's the boss. Yeah, that's how it was for me with my dad. Like he would coach me, but I never really had much to say to him because he was my dad. And he'd been doing it a long time. So it's pretty cool. AJ, you're racing not with your dad, but both racing now, and you're kind of taking a different look at it. Obviously, right now in the 6100s.
Right.
Sounds like you're maybe on that road to Dakar right now.
Yeah, so that's what we're kind of going towards. I went over to Spain in July, and we just ran a race called Baja Aragon over there, which was pretty cool. And just kind of littler steps, trying to do everything we can, as many events as possible and stuff like that. Try to get over there eventually and make a run at that. So,
do you, we're talking about pressure from our dads. I raced with my dad. You raced with your dad. You raced with your dad.
Right.
At San Felipe a couple years ago.
As your navigator.
So all
right. That ought to be interesting.
Showing you the ropes of Baja.
So all last year I navigated for him, and then in San Felipe we switched. And that was it's tough because like he was saying, like he can say basically whatever he wants to do, but then you really want to say something back, but then you're like, well, I don't want to lose my sponsorship.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
So all you dads out there, pay attention. The kids want to give you a little bit of heat, but you might not want to pile on too much. And Andy, your family, giant lineage. Your grandpa, obviously a legend, and both your dad and your uncle cutting really the groundwork for what off-road racing is today. Mm-hmm. Speaking of pressure, not only that, you have it on top from your dad and uncle, who are two of the greatest, but your cousins are no slouches either, pushing from the other direction.
Yeah, no, that's why it was interesting hearing what the guy said about racing with your dad. I started riding and navigating for my dad. That's how I got my start out in the Placer City races. Rode my first race when I was 12 years old, and I think it was really valuable experience because I wasn't driving in a race yet, but I still got to see how he approached the races. And, his strategy that he used, or the GPSs back then were, maybe 4.5
Well, let's first quantify there were no GPSs till really after 2000.
Yeah, this was like 2003, 2002.
That's the first time I ever saw a GPS was 2003.
Right.
And we couldn't even figure out how to see the course on it.
Yeah, no. I don't even know what I was doing over there. I was pretty much just riding and having fun. But it's a great thing, to have your family involved and be able to spend quality time with your dad, doing something really fun that you both love doing a lot. And he taught me everything I know, and he's still super involved in my racing. He's not driving so much anymore.
Which I think is a shame, by the way. I think your dad's one of the greatest in our sport currently.
He's pretty good. We had a good thing going there for a while, splitting a lot of the races between us. I was a little bit more aggressive. He's definitely no slouch, but he really takes care of the truck. And I think that's why we had a lot of success in the Baja 1000s, is because I could be aggressive. He could get the truck around, make sure he didn't have any problems, get it back to me in the same shape that I gave it to him. And it really worked out great for us.
Baja 1000 team up, we'll talk about that later.
Sure.
Scott's going to be driving. Now, Jacob, one of the topics that we always have as unlimited race car drivers is we're always very frightened to have the bikes in front of us. Now, you and Max and Colton and all those guys, you guys don't care because you're hauling ass and gone.
Yeah.
Like, you've never seen a trophy truck at the race, right?
Yeah.
The only time you've seen a trophy truck at the race is at contingency, right?
Yeah.
Because you get to the finish line, you're already gone before the trophy trucks get there, right? So you have no idea what we're really talking about, but I'm sure you hear about it from other bike guys, and you hear about it from guys like us. Where do you think the positioning on this should be?
Well, you know...
Or do you have an opinion?
Well, you know, I do, actually, because my wife raced Vegas to Reno. She raced on an open expert team with 2 other people.
Meg Argubright, in case you guys don't know.
Meg Argubright.
That's rad.
And, you know, it was her first time doing it, and I was worried about it. You know, I was like, you need to haul ass, and I don't know. And they actually finished 2 hours ahead of the trucks, which was fine. You know, no issues. And
that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's dependent on each race. You know, I was listening to the last show where you guys talked to Slam Life about, you know, Baja. And, I mean, for Vegas to Reno, like you said, I've never had to deal with it. I think the more the better. As far as starting earlier for us, I don't know if that's the best thing because we need lights, but I just think more time the better. And I mean,
more space between.
Yeah,
them.
More space, and you know what you guys were saying. I mean, do you guys have problems with people at Vegas to Reno not pulling over?
Well, I don't know if you guys knew this. I found out at the finish line talking to one of the tracker guys when he was taking the tracker out of our truck. I was a little disappointed to learn that at the race, I guess they're testing a new racing tracks for the bikes and the quads, and the bikes and the quads did not have them. At Vegas to Reno, and they weren't running them. And so because I got to the finish line and I was like, hey, caught a couple bike guys, you know, it was actually not that many, thankfully. It was maybe 7 or 8 bikes and quads
like too many,
that we passed, so it wasn't too bad.
So was the gap bigger this time?
It was they gave us another half an hour, I think,
like
at the
that.
start
Wasn't
line.
That much.
Maybe course conditions. The course was relatively easy this year. It was pretty flat, fast roads.
I thought you guys would catch us quicker because it's. I mean, they predicted we'd be there 45 minutes earlier. I'm thinking they're definitely going to catch us. Or, you know.
Yeah, so we didn't have. So you know, we'd catch up to a bike or a quad, and we'd press the little button, and they would never turn around. And so I told the guy at the finish, and I was like, "Hey, a lot of the guys didn't actually even acknowledge us." He's like, "Well, they actually were running it this race." I was like, "Well, you probably could have told us out of the drivers' meeting or something. Let us know. Hey, you catch these guys, give them a little extra time." So that was a little sketchy to learn after the fact.
On that point, I ran the tracker last year, and it was great, but both times I used it, it's broken off in like 50 miles.
Oh.
I like the idea. I also heard that they're working on a new one, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. You know, if they could just make it smaller and easier to mount, I think it's a great way.
Yeah.
I mean, when they used it last year, did it work for you?
It worked most of the time.
Yeah, I think it worked.
Okay. Actually, last year I had Tabo racing with me the first half, and they had a flat, and the passenger getting back in kicked it off. So we actually went.
It worked pretty good.
The whole last couple.
We were there
last
year.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
relatively speaking, they work well. It's better than not having it.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, something is better than nothing.
And you know, I mean, I like the idea. I like that someone's actively trying to make something to improve it. So I think just give it some more time and test it.
Yeah,
let's talk about what you're doing, because I mean, you did the privateer thing, you've done the factory thing. Now you're racing the desert on another program. Where are you and what are you doing?
You know, I was on the factory, and now I'm, privateer. I'm on a team, and they've been great, and I do a lot of things. I do pretty much everything, and next year, same program.
Meaning a lot of different disciplines.
No, just bike work.
You're
prepping.
wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, I'm wearing a lot of hats, and this year is definitely a bit of a shocker. Coming from factory, I had everything, and
what factory?
Manufacturer.
Okay.
And now I'm running Yamaha, and it's a totally new bike. So, like you said, a lot of hats, and just trying to iron out the details. But yeah.
Yeah. What do you got coming up? What's next? Are you staying on this series, or are you doing Baja, or?
I might be down at the Tijuana Challenge. Be my first Baja race, so that'd be really exciting.
Yeah, we got to share some Baja on the Baja Beach Bash a couple years ago. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, have never raced there, huh?
Nope, never raced there. The only time I've been down there is with you.
I promise. Pay close attention to what's going on around you, because it's definitely gnarly.
Yeah. I'm just going down just to cruise and learn it and
check it out.
Yeah.
So Cody.
Yep.
You hate trophy truck guys, or you don't? Let's get to the
I
bottom.
don't
of
hate
this.
trophy truck guys.
Awesome. What do you think?
Does
he hate trophy truck guys?
I don't know, man. I can't really get a good
Are you
read
getting a
on
weird
it.
vibe from him? I mean, you're a 6100 guy, and you drive trophy trucks with your dad some, and I kind of saw Cody move away from you a little bit over there. Did you see that, Andy?
There's a little there's something going on there.
I'm a little lost.
Well, you're kind of an elitist bike guy where you're like the fastest bike guy, so you pay no attention to what anybody else is doing.
That's not true.
Oh, okay, just checking. I'm just saying, Cody races an open wheel buggy, and for years we've been giving those guys a hard time.
Okay.
Because
and they can't beat the trophy trucks.
Yeah, they're not going to beat the trophy trucks. I'm just here to say. But
it's been like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, when was the last time?
At a real race.
Yeah.
One won like a Laughlin race a couple years ago, but it wasn't like a big race.
Like a rage at the river kind of.
Yeah. So, Cody, where are you at on the whole trophy truck Class 1 thing? Because you guys have a beautiful new car. You and Wilson's and one other team.
Yeah, Sergio Salgado.
That you guys all have the brand new Jimcos. They're amazingly beautiful.
And what kind of front end is on that?
Yeah,
it's a trophy truck front end.
Oh, a trophy truck front end.
Weird. That's weird. So now Fish is getting all switched on. He's coming in.
They pretty much look like a trophy truck without a body on it. You know what I mean? I mean the front suspension. I think the Wilsons were running 39s or 40s on their car.
They made a couple changes right before the 500.
Okay.
So they were able to go to the 40s. We, up until now, we've been on 37s, but we are now in that process of upgrading our car.
Yeah.
So we'll be on the 40s from here on forward.
Oh, getting on the big tire, huh?
Yep.
But it's still independent rear suspension, though.
It's still independent rear. Yeah, it's. I basically like to call it a trophy truck with 20 inches of travel. Because
which would suck, I think. not being mean, I'm just saying.
Because the front geometry is the same as the Jimco trophy truck, and then we have the long trailing arm, but it is
long.
It is a long trailing arm, which it's still a little bit shorter than what it's on a truck, but it's not far off it. But then we're still an independent rear, so we're still transaxle and rear engine.
What's the weight of that truck or the car?
Yeah, he called it a truck. You might be onto something here.
You know what the weight is?
We're right around 5,100.
So it's a little less than the truck still.
Yeah, it's a little less than the truck.
Quite a bit less.
So
it's right in between where the old Class 1 cars were, which is probably hovering around 4,000 pounds.
Our old car, our champion, Jimco champion, was it was like 48. So we're only a couple hundred pounds up on it.
Wow.
But that was a big one car.
Yeah.
So it's.
And so you drove the trophy truck, so you can draw the comparison. Obviously, the trophy truck's probably a little bit more lazy in the turns and the mountains, but then when you get in the big bumps, it's like, ha. Is that kind of the comparison?
Yeah, for the most part. With all the new geometry on this car, with it having the truck front end and with it having the longer trailing arm, it's a step that's a lot closer to a truck because we still get, granted we're only at 20 inches of travel, we still get the suppleness of the truck with the longer arm. It makes it have the soft feel that a truck has.
So is it pushing more of the weight, the suspension, like pushing the fulcrum of the car forward off that longer arm? So now you're using more of that front suspension?
Well,
that would be like an engineering question, which really that'd be for Luke.
Over my head, it's over my head a little bit. I'll text it.
With the longer, well, it's over my head too. But what I've been told is, with the longer arm, it's putting less. There's less angle change, so there's less force going through the mount. There's more force going through the shock, which can handle it.
Yeah. Right.
So it.
And just for everybody here, Parkhouse Motorsports, obviously, Cody and Brian Parkhouse. What is Parkhouse Tire? Because we're interested to know about that because obviously that's your family business.
Yeah, that's our family business that my grandpa started and still runs, and he's there almost every day. But we are a commercial tire dealer. So most of the trucks you see in Southern California, we supply a lot of the tires to big companies that are trucking companies and all that stuff.
And do you do roadside service?
We do roadside service also.
All right.
Those are probably the trucks that I've seen driving around. There's like a stake bed. It's like an F-350 with a stake bed on the back.
Yep.
Yeah, and they have giant trucks too, right? You guys have some
trucks. I mean, we do everything. We literally sell all tires across the board. Everything from what goes on forklifts and little dollies and all that stuff, all the way up to...
You guys can have all that. We just want to sell off-road tires here at Baja HQ.
All the way up to the biggest off-the-road tractors and dump trucks and all that.
That are like 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
All right, Austin, you're on the hot seat. You won the Baja 500. How cool was that?
We did. It was pretty cool. It was a good one for sure.
What's the name of your team?
Thunderstruck Motorsports.
Right on. Where did that all come together? How did that all happen?
Well, that all came together as Tisco built a 6100 car for this guy named Bryce Swain, the guy that I'm partnering with. And one day I got a call from him and his guys, and basically asked me to if I wanted to team up for this year and do a 5-race deal. So I said yes. We went and tested and met for the first time, and everything was really good. Just so I've been running races with him. We did Parker, San Felipe, Vegas to Reno, and the 500. And now, since we're first in the score points for 6100, we're gonna have to go do Tijuana and 1000. So that's what we got up next. And yeah.
How can you do the Tijuana race? Is it a 2-day race?
Yeah, so it's gonna be a 2-day race, and they made it a little bit longer this year. It's like a 68-mile loop. And Bryce is actually going to be at a wedding on that Saturday. So instead of coming down on Sunday, I think I'm just going to race both days.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so.
That'll be fun.
No pressure.
Yeah,
so you guys are leading the points. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean.
Yeah, that's definitely a cool feeling for sure. First year really racing, driving by myself, or I guess with a teammate, but, not with my dad.
Not
basically.
with your dad.
Where'd you guys finish at San Felipe?
Second.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were in front with about a 30-minute lead, and then we had a power steering pulley just completely shear apart on us, and we had to jump out.
That stuff happens.
It does happen.
Yeah,
And,
weird.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating, but got back in it and ended up second.
So the Dakar thing and going over there and doing that, what piqued your interest on that?
Well, after the 500, actually a guy named Xavier from over there in Europe came over to me. He represents a company that finds people to do things like that. And he started talking to me about it, and he started talking to me about Spain, actually. And then, the deal started coming together and things like that. And a couple months later, I went over there and did pretty well in Spain. In one of the stages, we got third. And started 50th or something like that.
Wow.
So we did pretty well in one of the stages, and he said, all right, well, now are you into this, the World Rally Championship thing? I said, yeah, of course, I'd like to pursue it if you'd like to, help me pursue it, essentially. Yeah. And that's basically where it's gone. So I think we're going to do Morocco coming up here in October. So we're going to go do the big dunes, and then, trying to do Dakar possibly by 2020. Not 100% sure yet. So just feeling it out.
Big.
I like it.
We like
feeling it out.
There's quite a few of us that would like to go to Dakar, just saying. But this thing called the Baja 1000 keeps getting in the way.
Yeah, I got to do that too, so.
Yeah.
What do we got going on up there, Fish? Anybody dropping some hate? Anybody like dirt bikes? Anybody like Class 1s? Does anybody like 6100
fans? And that's where the Thunderstruck thing came from.
Yeah, that's actually, that's what he said it was from. He said,
there you go.
I mean, he's always wanted to have a race team called Thunderstruck Motorsports because he likes the song, and when he built the truck, that's what he called it, so. That's where all that came from.
That's fair. Right. What else you got? Come on, I see. Is Nimrod on there? Or who else is on there?
They're just talking smack. Somebody said because Jason choked. Where was Jason McNeil? Did he choke recently in a race you guys were racing against him?
Yeah, so he was leading in the 500. He had a little bit of a lead on us, and I'm not sure 100% what he hit, but he hit something hard because when I passed him...
Oh, I saw the pictures!
Yeah.
He ripped that truck up.
Ripped the arm off, yeah.
Okay, so that was that comment.
Yeah, well, I love Jason, but, everybody's got their moments, right? I was watching a video today from 2010 or something. We flipped over our trophy truck. I'm sure you had your moment at some point.
I tend to try not to revisit those ones as much as possible.
Yeah.
So another question was, speaking of tire sizes, do you guys think that we ever need to limit the tire size or just keep getting bigger and bigger?
Well, I think
it's capped right now. It's capped at 40 inches.
It's capped
at Best in the Desert at 40. I don't know if it's capped at 42 at Score. So I think it's self-capped at this point because there was development of the 42, and people didn't build the truck to it, and I think that was part of the aspiration at that time for the trophy trucks. Everybody thought it was going to keep going bigger and bigger, and so the 42 came out, and I think it kind of went the other way. And I think that, to be honest with you, when I look at the 40s now, they look a little bit more svelte than even some of the 39s did a couple years ago. So I think it might have self-capped. But what I would like to see, speaking of caps, I'd like to see a cap on pre-running. I'd like to see some sections open at different times.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see, the silt beds and all that stuff. There's no reason to pre-run for 4 weeks and some of that stuff. And I think that we should – I think it's great for the economy of Baja or wherever we're at. But I think we should cut it down. And on the flip-flop, I'm trying to avoid any race that has no pre-running. I just would rather race where there's some kind of safety, at least one reconnaissance lap, so to speak. But I think that we could cut down on some pre-running, then we wouldn't have as much torn up courses. But I think that's where Score has been going with it, is they've been going off the graded road into the rough and letting it get rough. And I like it. I think it's cool. But at the same time, it gets pretty gnarly.
Yeah, what happened was back in the day when I first started pre-running, my family was known to pre-run a lot, and we would do the whole course 2 times. And that was a lot of pre-running, to a lot of people back then. Actually, probably, I would say most people nowadays probably still don't even pre-run. A lot of the top trophy truck guys do, Class 1 guys, 6100 guys, 10 cars.
I still think it's only about 20% of the people that are really doing recon, but then there's a smaller group that are really out there working at it.
Patrick Daly said you should get rid of the big pre-runners and make everybody pre-run in UTVs.
That was my second point was, we used to pre-run in a lot smaller vehicles with 35-inch tires, 33-inch tires. I'm guilty of it. I have a pre-run truck with 39-inch tires.
Well, I can tell you this. My pre-runner, I try to cruise around and not make holes. So we don't really, we're conscious
I do too. I go up the hills and I'm trying not to spin the tires and not make it bad for
There's guys out there that are just spinning the tires and I think if you tame it down a little bit, I think like the silt beds, that some of the places that develop silt, I don't have a good example right now, but there was a place at the 500 where there was like gnarly silt, right? But if everybody would have just pre-ran through it at 3 to 5 miles an hour and knowing it was going to break down, it wouldn't have turned into a complete mess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But instead, they got to just like everywhere. It's like, man, you get in your pre-runner and they're like, and that goes for the UTV guys as well. You sit around, you watch those guys. They're coming in hot to the turns. They're blowing the turns out. They're creating. It's everybody, us included.
But a lot of guys too. They take pre-running as like they're not really doing their homework as far as looking at lines. They're practicing for the race. So they're trying to go through areas at race speed to see what their race car is going to be like going through there at race speed to get a better feel for it. I personally don't do that, but some people do, and it's hard to control it. Baja's Baja, and unless the race promoter, instills something like they used to the Prim 300, a lot of Vegas guys would go test out in Vegas.
Or go bird watching.
Yeah, go close down the desert.
No one's ever been bird watching out in the, Pahrump area or Beatty area, or, no one's ever gone bird watching up there. But anyway, we're going to wrap this segment up. We're super stoked to have you guys on. Before we close it down, last thoughts from you guys? Sponsors you want to thank? Anything? Next race, what are you doing? Give us something, Jacob.
All right. Well, first off, thanks for having me, guys. It's the first time I've been down here. It's a really cool shop, really cool show. I'd like to thank my family, my wife, and my sponsors, Chidesser Transport Racing, and thank you guys.
For sure. Thanks for being here, Jacob. Cody?
Same thing. Thanks for having me on. It's great to talk about any racing, but especially ones you win. So,
when you win the big ones, it's pretty cool.
So
it makes it easier to come back to the next one.
Oh,
That's what I've found.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
If you're not doing so good and you have a bad race and the next one's like, we're going to... it's still good, but it's not as fun.
Was that the first time you raced since you flipped the car in Laughlin?
Since I flipped the car in Laughlin, yes. That's the first race I was back in.
I just finally saw that crash. So
we were keeping it quiet for a little bit just because it's bad image, and I kind of told everybody not to release the footage. But
I really didn't think it was that, it wasn't like you made a big mistake or anything. It was just kind of...
No, it wasn't.
Looks like you kind of just landed in a bad hole.
I hate to say it about myself, but it wasn't a driver error, I don't think. It was just one of those things. Our setup was a little bit off at that point. We weren't quite fully dialed in yet. And then that on top of... it's very similar to what Voss did at Parker this year. He landed in a hole and compressed out.
That's how we ended the truck at the MIC qualifying. We weren't even qualifying. In 2011 maybe, or 10, we were just cruising. I saw the photographers off the side, and we just did a little popped the wheelie off of the jump. We weren't even trying to jump it. And landed right in the hole exactly perfect. And next thing you know, we're endoing our 6,000-pound trophy truck.
Yeah,
and we have some good pictures of it, though.
It's kind of the same situation as that.
Well, sorry to bring it up. Well, not really sorry, because that's what we got to do.
You bounced back strong from it.
Yeah, good job coming back with the win. Awesome.
Yeah, it feels very good, and it's the new car. We're got the first one with the new design and all that, so it's awesome.
Thoughts on Harley Letner going to trophy truck? Glad to see him go. Think he's going to do good. Wish he was still competing with you.
As a fellow buggy dork, I would love to still be competing against him, but best for him. Obviously, he's stepping up to the top level class with you guys, so it's sad to see him go, but very happy for him that he made that step.
Off to the big leagues. AJ, what do you got coming up? What's going on?
Not too much, man. Just gonna do Tijuana here coming up. That's our next race. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for having me here. Come down to Baja HQ whenever, and I appreciate it.
Thank you guys. That's our first segment. We're going to come back with segment 2, which is going to include the Trophy Truck Circus. Myself and Andy are going to hang around. We're going to berate and give a hard time to Josh Daniels. It's actually Josh Daniel, but I add the S just because he hates that. So Josh Daniels,
I like that too.
Johnny Angel, and of course we're going to have Jesse Jones and Christian Sourapas. So don't go away. It should be pretty interesting. Here at Baja HQ, you guys can log on and check out what we have here. But more importantly, share what you're watching right now. Cause a little bit of trouble in the comments, and let's have fun on the internet, because that's why they made it. We're not supposed to just be your static dummies. Let's have some fun and interact. We'll be right back. One.
All right, guys, we're back here at Baja HQ, and we have the Trophy Truck Dorks, is what Cameron likes to call all of us. Jesse Jones, Johnny Angel. Angel or Angle?
Angel.
Angel. Okay, appreciate that. Christian Sourapas, Josh Daniel. We all raced at Vegas to Reno, obviously. Jesse and Johnny had a pretty spectacular run. Why don't you guys take us through, who started the race, what was the strategy, how did the partnership come about, and we'll kind of get your guys' race recap.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
So Johnny
started without you.
I think probably 2 years or a year and a half ago, Johnny approached me after we got the all-wheel drive and said he was interested in moving up in the trophy truck, so he ended up buying it. And, Johnny and I have been friends ever since. And
fellow Arizonians.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And when we were pre-running for the 500, we started talking about Vegas to Reno. We'd actually teamed up last year. And that was about it. We put the race together. Originally, I thought I was going to finish, but I think you put me in the truck last year, and I didn't do a good job.
I wanted him to qualify because I'm not great at qualifying.
Because he's a madman? You can say it out loud. It's okay. We're on Fishgistics.
I'm just not a
He's a maniac.
Getting
just say
in
it.
cold and hitting the
gas.
Say it! Yeah, he's an animal.
There you go.
Yeah, 17.
So I asked him to qualify, and with that I figured he had to start because he qualified. So
That's when you're nervous, though, because then you're not sure what 2J is going to do.
How many flat tires he's going to get. But we brought a bunch of extra tires. So we brought a bunch of tires with us.
Yes!
Just
I
in
love
case.
This.
But before the race, I told him, I said, I don't get a lot of flat tires, Jesse. And not that he's going to listen to me, because I'm really nobody in the racing world. But I said, I just don't get a lot of flat tires. And I think one of my secrets is I stay on the road.
Wow. Yeah, I like this. Wink, wink. So let me just say that we're giving Jesse a hard time. I respect Jesse as one of the top 5 drivers in our sport, period. And there's more than 5 of us here now, so you guys can try to do the math. But Jesse, it's interesting for you to team up with someone different. I mean, now, if I'm right, going back to 2005, you won Vegas Reno in 05?
Yeah.
Is that right? With Scotty?
Yeah, with Scott Steinberger.
So we raced against each other in that race, but did we pre-run together in that race?
We sure did. Yeah, you, me, and Scott Steinberger.
There you go. So got some old school going on with you. But Jesse, you've been known as one of the fastest guys in sport for quite some time. So, picking different partners has got to be interesting, whether it's Bryce or Johnny or whoever you're teamed up with. You got to kind of take your experience and try to feed that into the teams and guide and steer a little bit.
Sure, and I try to, but the problem with me, the problem with me is you never know what Jesse you're going to get, right? So.
I'm kind of glad that you said it, because I'm sure AJ's wanted to say this before. You weren't in here when we were talking to AJ, but he all the kids agree that the dads can say whatever they want, but the kids can't really let it fly too hard. But I think that you bring up a good point. You're not always sure which Jesse you're going to get, but the one thing about Jesse for sure, he's going to go fast when he gets in the racetrack.
Yeah, until I park it, right?
Well, you're very near winning the Baja 1000 this year. I know that you're frustrated about that. I was bummed to see you out of the race, even though it helped us get second versus third, but I'm sure that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, Bryce and I, we've teamed up, I think, the last 5 years, and we've had some real good, strong runs going right up until we parked it.
I was going back, and I'm pretty sure you guys have led the 1,000 every single year since 2012. Bryce was leading in 2011 before he had a lug nut issue on his truck. That's a pretty impressive run of Baja 1000s.
Thank you. Yeah, we have had some really good luck right up until it turned bad, but you just can't put it together. We go out and we get good leads and, back off and try to run a good conservative pace and get to the end, and it's just, it doesn't.
Well, there was
happen.
no conservative pace. We're going to talk Vegas Reno in a minute, but just following up Baja 1000, there was no conservative pace towards the end of the race. Yourselves and Abdali were on the gas. We were running third and going good. You guys were making it happen.
Yeah, when, Bryce had some trouble earlier in the day, and we had some light bar tore off the truck. The hood was tore off the truck. We had no rear brakes. And so we worked on it. I think you were actually right behind when I got into the truck. And we were third, about 25 minutes down. And I was talking to Steve, and I asked him, what do you want me to do? You just go for the finish or go for the win? And he said, just go ahead and send it. And so I told Pete when I got in the truck, just disregard everything except for the ones that you think are going to kill us, and hold on, because we're going to go ahead and see what we can do tonight. And we had a good run going.
Can you imagine Andy being the navigator and hearing on the radio the team owner telling Jesse to go for it?
Yeah, send it.
Whatever you want.
Not even just go for it, but send it. I feel like there's go ahead and do what you need to do. Then there's go for it, and then there's send it. Well, and then, so that would have stayed with me if I was a co-rider going, okay, here we go.
And one of the kings of send it, sitting next to us, Josh Daniels.
Yeah, no S.
I know. We'll talk about that.
What the hell's wrong with you, man?
I like it. Ever since you raced with us, I've been kind of sticking with the S, just because I know you don't like it. But
it's not that I don't like it. It's just not on the last name.
Well, you're gonna have to add it.
Just actually not your name.
It's right? Supposed to be, ironically, except for back in 1915 when my grandpa was born.
They
left the S off. So other people in the country that are family members that are Daniels, but I'm not.
All right, we'll let you fly. So we're talking Vegas.
Not Vegas Reno related,
like
but
did we talk about where they all placed when I was powdering my nose?
I started with Jesse and Johnny, just kind of giving their race.
And you guys were fourth, Josh, you and Justin, right?
Yeah, Justin.
And you guys were sixth.
Yeah, we were sixth.
So Christian and Troy together. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yep.
And we'll get to you in a minute because I don't think we've had you on the show since the cow incident. So we should probably have that conversation as well, right? Because that still keeps coming.
That is. That's still out there. It's still out there.
You have. Oh yeah, Johnny is the one holding the cow at his head, right?
Yeah, I had some fun with the cow out there after.
Yeah, you guys didn't get to see the pictures that aren't on the internet. And the liver, the baby cow's liver.
What?
You don't know about that? You haven't been on a farm?
You eat it raw or what? I mean, you're there now.
We'll talk about it after. You don't eat it. You don't eat it.
So you guys watching on the web, feel free to comment. Obviously, we have 4 psychos and then 2 more calculated race car drivers over here. And but anything goes. Let it fly. Josh, so how was your race? I know you guys were leading at some point during. There was a lot of leading. Let's talk about the leading because did you lead as well, Andy?
Unfortunately, I don't think so.
Okay, well you suck then. So
I do.
Josh and Justin led. Bryce led. Johnny and Jesse led. And I was just kidding about the comment. I thought you had led as well. Was there someone else? Jason was in there, right?
Jason led for a while.
So there was some battling going on up in the front of this race. And the subject we should all talk about is 2-wheel drives and 4-wheel drives because I think that's a great topic.
Yeah. Questions coming in.
Josh has driven both, so probably a good person to
Jesse's driven both.
Jesse's obviously driven both.
Yeah. And you've driven both, haven't you?
I drove the Mason one a year and a half ago. And it was a lot different than it is today, so not really.
That was
you driven a 4-wheel drive?
Yeah, just testing.
Yeah?
I've driven the Mason 4-wheel drive.
And you guys got one coming?
Yep.
Oh, that's
it should show up at Laughlin.
Nice. So, Josh, how was your race? I mean, it sounds like you guys were right in the mix. You were leading. I know that happened to you a couple years ago, and you guys had a problem.
Yeah, it was good. We, I was just trying to keep pace and keep all the tires on it. That's always an issue. So, just trying to just. I started right behind Jason. I had a brake fitting break off in qualifying, so it is what it is. But I thought that I was going to actually be further back than I was.
So where were you?
11th.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're seeing your Instagram about that. You're still sitting really well.
I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure I was after 20th, But the brake fitting broke off in qualifying about a mile to go, and I'm like, oh, dude, I'm done. The brakes are to the floor, and so. I reached up and I pulled the cutting brake. And I'm like, oh, I still got rears, but you have to drive, significantly slower because it's pretty tight and burned in. And if you toss it up, you're kind of screwed. And then that back stretch, I wanted to leg it all the way in and break that sucker late in there. And with the 4-wheel drive, you can get it sideways and then just stand on it and it'll
pull you out
without it, getting too crazy. And I couldn't. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to stop. And then if I wipe out all those cones, that's.
Then you'll be really far.
Yeah, then I'm a minute off.
That was actually a tricky corner because it came up really fast.
Yeah.
That hard 90.
Not for me. It came up slow.
I couldn't for most of us.
Yeah, but if I was on the wood, it would have been.
So you started behind Jason. What was your plan? Just to kind of pace Jason. He's out. Jason's won this race for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I think he's won it more than anybody, right? I think, and. I'm like, well...
just for reference, if you throw a stat out like that, never question yourself because you never let the truth get in the way of a good stat. And secondly, no one but Andy will ever really know for sure because he's the stat guy. So just let it fly and go with it.
Yeah, just go with it.
20 years of TV.
I'll call you out later.
Let it go.
All right, you got it. So, I'm like, passing is nearly impossible, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to pressure as much as I can and just sit right here. So my goal is every pit to come through and then go, dude, he's still up your ass, And eventually we got through and Andy's truck fell off the jack and he got between us. And I told Billy, Billy Baruti, who rides with me.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm just saying daggers,
Oh no, it's not it's not meant in any way. But he was, down. It's odd that Andy's down.
Literally down. Like
if he's running good, it's not easy to stay.
Did I take off out of there and you guys are coming through the pit?
Yeah,
so coming pretty quick.
Yeah, so Andy got in between us
because Voss pit there too.
Yeah, so Voss got out, Andy got out in between us, and then so my point is that now if those positions stay the whole time, I can't beat Voss,
right?
Because there's no way I can. Andy's gonna. Yeah. I mean, Andy might be on his ass, but I mean, what if he's 30 seconds, 45 seconds, the chances of me being within a minute.
Yeah, the dust clouds being
really slim.
Having to be 30 seconds apart for you to be exactly 1 minute behind Jason and me in between, that would have been close.
And so I just tried to pressure and pressure and pressure without making mistakes. And then, Andy pulled in to do something on his truck and I would just squeak by him and I'm like, whoa.
Barely.
Yeah. And then I caught Voss, had changing a flat. So by the time I got out, I think that we were 45 seconds on time to Bryce. And then I got out and the truck fell off the jack in our pit. And,
and I got around.
You got back around. But Voss wasn't. So I was all right with Andy back in front because he had to, I was calculating the times in my head. Okay, Andy started so many positions up. Okay, we can still lose some time and be close enough to get him.
Yeah.
But Jason had to get around us. So
you started 12th, I started 5th, so it's 7 minutes.
I was penciling it
6
out.
minutes. So I wasn't going to put 5 minutes on.
Where'd you start, Christian?
I started 12th, so I was right behind him and Voss. So obviously these two know how to go fast, know how to win. So my whole strategy was just to stay in their dust and
stay right off the end of it.
Yeah, I knew they would bring me to the front, and it worked out for the first, I'd say 150 miles. But then all of a sudden, just a whole another pace opened up. I got a bunch of clean air. And we were going through like the rocky sections coming into like pit 5 and then into Goldfield. So I didn't want to club a rock and then have guys like Lettner and Johnny and Jesse pass me. So I just figured, hey, I knew I was getting out at 300. So I was like, hey, just want to give Troy a perfect truck, stay in line, and then go racing from there. And it's sort of how it happened.
Yeah, so you guys came from what start position?
17th.
17th. So your strategy, obviously, if you guys will divulge, but I mean, you kind of could watch the hot rods kind of let the race develop and know what you guys had to do.
Yeah, starting that far back and with Lintner right in front of us, I knew that he would try to push a little bit and maybe open some holes up for us and just tuck in with him and go to the front. And honestly, I couldn't keep up with him. I mean, we drove the whole day dust-free, and I knew that we would have some good runs in some of the areas, and then we'd get splits, and we knew we were up, bouncing around like the top 5 or so. But that was a mean pace you guys were setting out front. You guys were gone.
Vegas to Reno
is a good pace.
It's an interesting race because most of the time Vegas to Reno is known for so much dust and silt and 2-track. Right, Baja, you get in sand washes, you pre-run, you can take this line, this guy's on this line. Vegas to Reno is follow the leader the whole way. The only way you pass someone is in the pit, pulled over changing a tire, or pulled over broken on the side of the road. So how it kind of worked out this race, when I went through pit 3, I was the 5th truck, Boss started 10th. He was the next truck in behind me. And I was still running decent at that point. I was up to 4th on the road. And so just the air gaps that kind of open up and how you can charge those air gaps at Vegas to Reno. Sometimes it pays off to be up front because those air gaps open up a little bit. Sometimes it pays off to be a little bit further back. And you get a 3 or 4 or 5 minute air gap back there.
Yeah, speaking of that too, like when I was talking about pressuring, it's also, one strategy that I've encountered too. It's pressuring from the front too. Like if that sounds strange or not, holding up enough to where guys are going, oh shit, I'm gonna get them, and then they pressuring them into a mistake or something like that.
It's called reeling them into a flat tire.
Baiting them in in the rocks. Yeah.
But I've seen guys do it, and I'll use Rob as an example. I'm not, calling Rob out, but what it appeared to me.
You can call Rob out. It's Fishgistics. You can say anything you want.
Well, no, but what appeared to me at the Vegas to Reno.
Rob, are you watching? Come on, throw a message out there, Rob. We know you're there.
Well, like the Vegas to Reno.
If you don't message us, we're going to give out your phone number live on Fishgistics. I have it right here on my phone.
So like the Vegas to Reno 3 years ago when Andy won, Rob was second, I was third, but I felt that Rob started that race first and was like, I'm going to hold everybody up. I'm going to hold them up. And then they restarted that race and did all that and gave BJ the opportunity to just leg it, Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Rob had a problem. I think Rob was being Rob and being strategic and being very smart and goes, well, I'm going to hold it up. But it actually bit him in that instance to where, so doing that, you still got to be, it's still tricky. You still always got that like, oh shit, man, if I don't do it just right, the guy that's started 17th is going to,
I call it playing the accordion.
Yeah.
Right? Because it kind of goes like this and there's multiple ways that it can breathe in and out. And, you start playing that game, you got to be careful. If you're going to back up the pack, which we've seen drivers do, you got to be aware of what's happening behind you. And also you got to be aware with there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And maybe a lot of people that are into off-road racing don't realize how much we're all thinking about this.
The thing that I always find prolific is that that's
a $5 word score.
people that like I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but a lot of guys that drive other classes go, you guys just drive a big giant truck. That's a couch. I could kick ass in that class.
Yeah, just smash all the bumps.
Yeah, but it's not the case, and we all know that. But the trucks will break, And so running that pace just slow enough to win is very, very, very hard, you know. And we see a lot of guys that just go out and haul ass. Man, I was leading. No, you weren't. You were going too fast. You think you were leading? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was leading on corrected time. Yeah, but you were going. The pace you were setting was too quick.
Right.
You were going to break something.
Well, that's what I thought at the 500. I thought we were all going too fast, and everybody finished except for us. So.
Well, but on that note, though, the pace now is freaking gnarly.
Just
man.
in the last
like,
18 months or 2 years, the last couple years, it's definitely gone like this.
Cameron, that was one of the questions that somebody had here for Johnny was, what do you think the difference? You used to race UTVs, now you're racing the trophy trucks. So how's the pace? Obviously,
yeah. Take us through. You started in UTVs, and then you went spec trophy truck, I believe, and a geyser truck, and then you made the leap to trophy truck. Take us through your little timeline of getting into off-road racing. When did you?
I started, I think, just over 4 years ago, and I was building Polaris Razor for a customer at my shop, and I went out, checked out the Parker race, and I thought, this looks pretty cool. I think I'm going to build myself one. A friend of mine at Polaris gave me a used machine that I could turn into a race car. So I'm not going to really waste any of my money racing. This stuff's crazy.
Sure.
So I built a car. I showed up for the Silver State 300, and I started third, just luck of the draw. And by mile 70, I was on the leader, and he was jackrabbing, and I was like, hey, I'm just driving. I wasn't hanging out, or I'm just driving. And I just kind of saw that in the UTV class at that time, it was more about making your car last and finish a race. But I didn't really have that in me. I want to go fast as I can all the time. I don't want to back off because my car might break. I want to back off when my car breaks. So I did a year and a half. The first 6 months, I raced Baja 500, and I think I finished 4th or 5th. And I'd never been to Baja, Mexico. So it was just, this is intense. I was in the car 12 hours, nothing really to eat, stuck at silt hills, waiting for people to get up. And
great de-virginizing Baja experience.
12 hours, and I was at race mile 300 for the 500, so I got
at that
out.
point where you're like, this shit's for the birds, man.
I had a blast. I loved it. I was dying on the way home, and I was thinking, man, I can't wait till the 1,000. I'm going to win the 1,000. I'm going to build a new car, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And that's what I did. I went home and kind of strategized. Everybody at the time was 18, 20-gallon gas tanks. And I said, I'm going to build a 4-seater. It's longer. It won't kick so much. And I'm going to put a 30-gallon gas tank in it. I want to go 200 miles. When they pit at 150, I want to drive by them. So that's what I did, and we just had a good, clean 1,000. That was 2014. We won it. And then the next year, I won the UTV Best in the Desert Championship. So I was pretty happy and knew I could hang. And I started, just like everybody else, I want to go faster. And I bought the 6100 truck. I raced a year in it, ended up second in points. And kind of
you had some really good races in that. That's a tough class.
I was thinking, I'm a badass. I'm going to go race with the badasses and try to beat them. It's really cool. In the UTVs, you're racing against the badasses of the UTVs, and you're 6100. You're racing against the badasses of the 6100 class. But to race against the trophy truck guys, you and Jesse Jones. That's
say you. He didn't point at me. I noticed that.
Oh, sorry, Cameron. I mean, that's just.
You'll get yours.
Caught you both.
That's the dream for me. Was I want to go out and I want to try to beat the best, because it's all fun, but when you climb that ladder to the very top, winning the Baja 1000 was really cool. Winning Vegas to Reno, I cried, and I didn't even race the whole race.
Yeah.
So, I take credit from myself. Yeah, it wasn't just me. It was a team. He did excellent. I did okay. I look at my times just like you guys do, and I see, I fall short here, and I take it all into account. I'm a very realistic person that I'm not the best. We had a great race. Everything fell in place for us. But if there was no qualifying, I think I could line up, and there was no dust, I could line up and race next to a lot of guys. But I still have a lot to learn. It's just not as easy as people think.
Well, I got news for you. You were the best that day.
Yeah, I was. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I want to ask, going back to that, you guys won, obviously, and you're racing with a guy who's won in Trophy Truck. He's won championships. He's obviously legend inside the class in off-road racing. So now you're waiting at mile 300. Where were you?
I was at 300, 310, whatever, pit 10.
So you're 4. You're pit 10. Jesse's in the truck, and holy crap, the times are saying that we're in this thing to win it. Where's your mind out there? I mean, are you able to keep it calm? Are you pounding a little bit? I mean, all of a sudden the pressure...
I was really calm. I was driving his Raptor. My guys were already at the pit, and I was just kind of chasing. And I got there knowing that when I got there, the trucks were getting close, and the first trophy truck already went by. So I was like, man, I got to get ready and get my fire suit on. And I was really calm for a change, and just like qualifying, I get in and I'm nervous. So he pulls up, I'm thinking we're 8th on course, and somebody's telling me we're 4th on corrected time, and I'm thinking we're going to be top 5. We're going to be top 5. You know, as 20 miles in, 30 miles in, I pass the Terrible Herps truck.
Is that nice. You or the other one?
51 with Troy in it. I was already out at that point.
Right.
Yeah, that was your nice passing it without hitting it this time. So, and then Concrete Motorsports. I'm telling my co-driver, call him and tell him we just passed so-and-so. And I'm thinking, we got to be really close to a podium. And I got in, and I just, because of my suspension in my truck, I had a problem with kind of for the first year, feeling comfortable. And I wasn't real familiar with Vegas Reno second half, because in the Razor, I was racing the first half, 6,100 I did when it was that 2-day race. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't real comfortable, but I knew it was fast, and I was really comfortable that if my truck hits a wash, you know, I'm going to fly over it, and 90% of the time it's going to be okay. So I just got in, was
playing
comfortable, and
you're a perfect teammate for Jesse.
Hit the gas. So
are you good at throwing your co-driver out?
No. I kind of like.
Gotta learn that skill, man.
I don't do that anymore.
Only because you got your kid riding with you, right? You can't throw AJ out.
No, you can't.
So I had clean air. Past these two, we're coming through Rock Canyon, whatever that thing is. The rest of it was uneventful. Passed some quads and some dirt bikes, got in their dust. Wasn't held up a lot. Everything was good. I felt good, and I told Vance around mile 200, I was like, man, I feel like I just got in the truck. And I had a lot of fast sections. So I see what I think is Minzy's helicopter, and I'm thinking,
yeah, as we all
what
did.
What are they doing here?
We came down that straightaway.
So I come around the corner, and I see what I think is his truck, and I'm like, we're going to podium this race. But, I broke 5 miles in my Razor, 5 miles from the finish line at the Mint 400 after leading the whole race. So I don't really want to say anything.
Yeah.
You're
thinking it.
No. I'm thinking it.
But you're like, you don't want to say anything, number one. Number two, you're telling yourself, okay, don't think about that. Think about the course. Make it to the finish line. No problems. Because it's still a treacherous last 20 miles from where Bryce was sitting.
And I was praying a lot, so...
Amen.
A half mile later, that's the Geyser 4-wheel drive truck, and I didn't even know he was racing it. Mm-hmm. I see it off to the side, and I'm like, and I tell my co-driver, we're going to podium this race, and I mean, I'm ecstatic. And
now you're third on the road, right? Because then it was Jason. Jason was first. I was right behind Jason, and then. With them broken down or changing a flat, then you guys were third.
Same thing. I'm thinking I'm holding up 6 guys behind me. I'm holding up 6 badasses because I'm going slow.
Pardon my French, fuck those guys. That's what I said. You're holding everybody up. Out the window, dude. Take it.
But I feel bad because I'm new at the sport and I don't want to be ruining up his race.
Sure.
Because I'm up here tooling through the desert.
Yeah.
And you just don't know. You don't know how well you're doing until the end of the race.
And then
nobody came
how's
on
it
the radio.
unfold? Keep telling the story.
I see the helicopter. I pass the. I tell my co-driver, we're going to podium this race, and he's like, "Don't say anything yet." And then the steering wheel just gets yanked out of my hand.
Oh.
Hard, big, one of those big gnarly rocks sticking out of that dirt. And I think, okay, I got to slow it down. Jeez, is the tire going to go flat? tire doesn't go flat, and I just drive and you know, I'm kind of sliding all over the place. My back tires are thrashed. The truck doesn't want to go around a corner, and it was just at that point get it to the finish line. And then once I knew the finish line was coming and I was up on the top, I can picture all the YouTube videos of Jason Voss sending it off the finish line. I was like, wow. And I'm going to send it off the finish line. I didn't care if I was in 3rd place or 5th place. I just wanted to
It's fun.
So I did. I pulled down, and there's only 2 trucks. I'm thinking, yeah, we just podiumed the race. He comes over, and he's like, you know, they think you won. And I'm looking at Voss. He won 4 years in a row. And I'm looking at your truck thinking, oh, there's no way I beat these badasses. And he says they're calculating the times. You may have won. And then somebody down there is like, yeah, you won by 1 minute. Sounds like Johnny won by 1 minute. And I was just like, I won Vegas to Reno. You know, it's like dream come true. Yeah. I call my dad. My dad's always been there for me. I call my dad, and I'm kind of in tears. And I'm like, I just won. I called him at pit 5 or something and said, oh, we're doing good. You know, we're 5th place, correct the time, 9th place, whatever. And when he answered the phone, he's like, oh, what happened? I'm like, no, nothing. We're good. I'm just following. And I was like, I got to go. So, you know, when I call him at the finish line, I'm sure he's expecting what happened.
Yeah.
The next day he said, you know, when you called me, it was really funny because I was just kind of getting ready to tell you, don't you think you're wasting too much money on this racing stuff? You're never going to win a race.
That's amazing.
It was the world to me. I mean, you try so hard, you invest the money and the time, and it's hard to get the time to drive the truck. It's not like I have a spare truck and I can go take one out and beat it and test. So it's hard. And it's physically, I mean, a year and a half ago, I started going to the gym because the trophy truck, like he said, it just kicked my ass. I got out, I couldn't walk, my knees hurt, and I was exhausted and dehydrated, and I just said, this truck's not going to beat me. I'm going to go out. And
yeah, when I was sitting there at the finish line, and I totally expected Voss to have won because I didn't hear anything about you guys all day. That's the other thing at Vegas to Reno. If you're not on the racing tracks, like on your phone looking at times, someone that starts, 12 minutes behind you physically, we leave the pits, we pack our stuff, we're trying to leapfrog chase trucks, next pit, and we're not sure, a whole lot of the time who's coming behind us. So I was sitting at the finish line, and I'm behind Jason. I'm like, he just won his 5th out of the last 6 Vegas to Renos. The guy's an animal. Kind of pissed about it. Like, God, is anyone ever going to dethrone him? And I noticed that none of Voss's guys saw his dad there, his mom, him. They weren't celebrating. They weren't, popping the champagne or anything. And I said, what's going on? Something, you just won the race. Like, why aren't people celebrating? And then he pulls out of the way, and then I pull up to the start finish or the finish banner, and here comes Johnny hauling ass over the finish line jump, and I was like, oh my gosh, where did they come from? And that's the thing about Vegas to Reno. It happened to me and BJ like 7 or 8 years ago. Rick Johnson came from the back, qualified 25th or something, and just kept moving all day and beat us at the end on time.
A little side note on that truck that you won in. I saw a picture on Facebook of you and your UTV getting passed by Jesse in that very truck.
Actually, it's the opposite way around. I had just passed him.
Oh, you passed the trophy truck.
That's what I was. Oh, yeah.
So when that happened, did you think any day that you were going to be in that truck, let alone win a race?
No. I never thought I'd be in a trophy truck. And it was really cool because that truck is Jesse's old truck. So we just kind of kept it alive. And that's one of the reasons I asked him to race with me is he knows the truck better than anybody. So... hey, Jesse, you want to race with me?
Sure. And he hauls ass.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't exactly pick a shitty guy. You got a guy that knows what he's doing.
He's kept the truck out of the ocean for years.
But mic drop right there, Johnny. I like that.
I'll tell you, Johnny, I'm being a really big fan of the sport, growing up in the sport, seeing a lot of guys come around. I follow you on social media. I watch a lot of the videos that you post, your qualifying videos, and even back in the Trophy Truck Spec days when you were driving that. And I just seen you progress and getting faster and faster and faster. And actually, I was coming into this race going, Johnny's actually really fast. I mean, I watch maybe it was Silver State or the Mint 400, and you're qualifying, and you're a really smooth driver. You're really fast. You seem to be pretty level-headed when you're in the truck and you're racing, kind of letting the race come to you. So I just want to commend you for an excellent win. That was extremely impressive.
Well
Jesse as well. We all know Jesse, and he's a great driver. But you earned a lot of respect from me. Just how you came into this sport, getting to the top so quick, teaming up with a guy like Jesse is obviously a great thing to do, and you couldn't go wrong doing that. But it was really impressive.
Thank you.
Really impressive.
I appreciate it.
Questions coming in.
All right, questions, and we want to get. I have some questions for Christian Sourapas.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It was what's it like racing with the Herps?
It's honestly a dream come true. I remember being a little kid, playing with toy trophy trucks.
Hold on, check that. You are still a little kid, but go ahead.
Okay, I remember being even littler than I was today, and just, what any kid does, just like going around with little toy trucks. And then I just saw the land shark go by. I think it was at Laughlin. It was my first ever race. Immediately fell in love and was a huge fan. I would send Troy birthday cards when I was little, all the little cute things that my mom would do. And
their backstory. Truggy was my favorite vehicle too, growing up in the sport. Just because it's a trophy truck without panels, so you see the wheels drop at Laughlin, the suspension soak up is amazing. But there is actually somewhat of some bad blood between Troy, John Marking, Sourapas, the Corona Extra, Class 1 car. Back in the Laughlin days, they used to do battle pretty good.
Well, I think
there was some drama that kind of flew around there.
For sure. Well, if you guys don't know, Christian's dad is the only person to ever win the Baja 1000 overall in a limited vehicle.
Yeah, Class 10
and,
car.
Big-time Class 1 driver, and I'm sure when all of a sudden we're racing trophy truck suspension in the Class 1, I'm sure there was a little bit of headbutting.
Right, that's a good point. That probably had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I'm sure John Marking would love to fuel that up. And
yeah.
For those
sorry, Christian. Keep it up.
Keep going. I don't know. Just simply put, it's honestly a dream come true, being a really young kid, idolizing a certain driver, and then fast forward 16, 17 years and being able to drive with them. What? When Brett first got the call from Troy saying, "Hey, we're going to start building trophy trucks for ourselves. We know you and Christian are winning a lot in 6100, and you guys need to get in a trophy truck, and we want you guys to be a part of it." So that's sort of how the whole dynamic of the Sourapas Herps partnership happened. And then I was running track at Oregon at the time, so I couldn't get away as much. So Brett was the Herps guy to race with them in Mexico.
Was Brett racing with Troy or with Tim?
He started off with Tim.
Okay.
And then, because Arciero was still with Troy at the time.
Oh, right,
and then
right.
Arciero left the team, and that's when Brett decided to race with Troy. And then they had PJ Jones, and now recently Ryan Millen.
Yep.
And now it's, for the first time, for the 1000, it's going to be me, Troy, and Brett, three people team.
Nice.
And that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That is cool. How is it? I mean, your brother's a madman too, but there's a lot of people talking about your qualifying skills and the speed that you carried. Feeling pressure from the family, or are you just kind of doing your own thing? Or, how do you develop that? Everybody's got their own style, right? Luke's this guy, Andy's this guy, Dan's this guy.
That's a good family competition there. Brothers, racing against each other, battling against each other.
Elbows up.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about Brett and I is we could dress exactly the same, wear same everything, be in the same truck, and you couldn't tell who's driving. We're almost identical because we've learned from the same people. Mm-hmm. And guys like Andy, Rob McCachran, my dad, so no slouches. And we've pretty much had the same amount of seat time, and we're pretty similar. I was a little butthurt this race because when I first got into trophy truck, when I actually started racing against Brett, I'd always out-qualify him. And this race, I kind of got a little over my head, and I was trying to go for the pole because it's something I've always wanted to do. And went out there in Apex and just drove the absolute shit out of the truck and was getting too sideways, getting off the course. So I knew it wasn't going to be a good run, and Brett actually ended up out-qualifying me. So I kind of had a little chip on my shoulder, but at the same time, I didn't have any donkeys out-qualifying me. I think it was 6 seconds between 1st and 12th where I ended up. That's insane. You get guys like Josh Daniel, 11th. You get Jason Voss, 10th. Mm-hmm. What? When does that ever happen?
Yeah.
It really doesn't. It just shows you how far trophy truck has really come. And then even in the race, I was driving pretty hard, and these guys were still slowly getting away from me. I knew where I was losing time in the rocks, but even where I expected, oh, I might be able to make up time here, it's really not easy.
Your
it's
brother
not.
says you're full of excuses.
So you drove the first 300,
Yeah.
pretty much the same what Jesse and Johnny did.
Yep.
You had pretty much trouble-free race.
Trouble-free.
Got Troy a really clean car,
Clean car.
which is what your goal was. And then Troy got in there. He have any problems, any issues? I know the other Herb's truck was broken down earlier in the race.
Yeah, just a couple of flat tires. I'm not sure how it happened, but that's sort of what got us behind.
Yeah.
And that allowed Johnny to get by.
Yeah.
But honestly, pretty excited with the effort that we had. We had no problems whatsoever. It was just really stuff that was in our control. There's a lot of things like I could have driven harder here and made up more time, or Troy, obviously, if he didn't hit the rocks, he probably would have been up there. But it's every race, it's a learning experience, and you can reflect and bring momentum into the next race.
Yeah, there's a lot of reflecting after the fact, And I always tell people that if there's I'd have won so many Parker 60s. But, there's just
Baja 600s.
Yeah. Kick some ass, but if you don't make it all the way around, then then you sit there and go, oh man, I should have, so close. I should have done this, or I should have done that. But how do you second guess it? And then also like you do something, you're like, well, it's pointless to go back and redo it, right? You just gotta keep going, So you can't really let that stuff sit in your head.
Well, and that's why a lot of guys, they want to come in, they want to do really well right away, and they want to win right away. And I think, that's a good point to touch on is, it takes experience, right?
Yeah.
You have to make mistakes. You have to learn what not to do in order to know what to do in certain situations.
Anything juicy up there?
Yeah, Josh, a couple of people are asking when are you going to bring your truck back out. They still think it's a turbo, but
yeah, I think that's a good to bring up.
I think
drive, 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, I think we're all going to talk about that right now. We're going to shift gears. We've talked about Vegas Reno. Let's talk about the hot topic: 2-wheel drives, 4-wheel drives. One of the things I was most stoked about you guys winning Vegas Reno is you were in a 2-wheel drive, keeping OG style. And I know the 4-wheel drives are coming. And if there was one race that's a perfect race for the 4-wheel drive, in my opinion, it's Vegas to Reno because there's no bumps.
Absolutely.
It's really the fast roads, the turns. I mean, there's a lot of different things that play into it. I don't know how to start this, but maybe start with the question about where Josh is with his truck, and we'll talk about truck development for a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm trying to race it at Laughlin. We took the turbo engine out, which I really like. I think that big block that we build now is a better trophy truck engine. The turbo engine makes so much torque on the bottom that you almost can't keep it from spinning the tires. So you come off the corner, and I noticed, I have some stuff in my truck to be able to tell certain things, and even just coming off a corner and just short shifting to third with like a quarter of the gas cracked open, it's still just roasting the tires. And I'm like, man, this is, then you're losing fuel economy, you're wasting tires. Yeah. So I think the big block doesn't make as much torque down low, but it still carries a lot of horsepower. But you don't, in that truck in particular, you don't need it. Now, a 4-wheel drive truck, I'd take that turbo engine, stick that sucker in there, because Justin's truck, I really, really love the 4-wheel drive. But, dude, it feels like it's got an anchor at the back all the time, man. It's like, are the brakes on in this thing or what? Because especially you get up to like 100, and it's just like somebody threw out the
I think that's because parachute. It's so hooked up and there's not a lot of tires.
Well, there's a big difference. Like a lot of people, the feel of it doesn't feel like it's going fast. But if you pull out a stopwatch and click it off, and I'm sure Jesse will tell you, like, you're like, it doesn't feel like it's going very fast. But you look down, you're like, oh, shit, we just made some time up. Mm-hmm. But that truck won't pull, up on the top. Now, with Jesse's big block, I don't know, like, what his top speed is or where his truck stops pulling and stuff like that.
For reference, Jesse's 4-wheel drive Geyser, which is a similar build to the Matney RPM truck.
Right.
But now he has Josh or Danzio's big block engine in it, correct, Jesse?
Correct, yeah.
And
people were asking when he was going to race that again, or what you're doing with that truck.
Right.
So where are you with your truck? And so he's saying it needs more than just a conventional 8-stack.
Yeah, for sure. When we originally got the truck, it had the small block in it, and we drove it, and immediately you could feel that the car needs to have more torque in it. So you need it to come off the corners, and if you imagine a tractor, it's kind of like riding a 4-stroke versus a 2-stroke. You know, you're always in short shifting and just kind of tractoring through everything, letting the car take a good set and hooking up and just pulling off of there. So that's what I called Josh, and they built the big block, and I'm not 100% sure on what the specs are on the thing, but it's got a lot.
I'm not either.
You've raced it. You raced it once at a
we
snow
raced
race
it at the midnight race, and we went 400 miles that night, and everything was fine. And we actually took it down and pre-ran the Baja 1000 with it this year. Austin drove it and put about 600 more on it down there. And I think we broke it at Rage at the River, and that's when we decided to go a different direction with the T-case. Robbie Woods contacted us and said that he had what he felt like was a fix, and basically, just to simplify it down, there's a dampener now between the front and the rear wheels, rather than being all hard geared. If there is any difference in the wheel speed, it's going to absorb it in the transfer case rather than just taking the load in the gear set. So I think we're pretty close on that. Kevin Croyer's working on it. He's got it on his dyno, and we've picked up a few things that needed to be fixed. We've addressed those, and it's ready to go into the truck, and hopefully we'll get it out and we'll use it as a pre-runner and possibly race it at the 1000 this year.
I like that. The world is talking about four-wheel drives. I worth mentioning, it was only a few short years ago that everybody's talking about sequential shift trucks and how you're going to have this if you're going to qualify first, or if you're going to win, because obviously Lofton had some success, and Dale Dundell, and Robbie, and everybody's like, okay, this is the way. Those trucks are obsolete. That's no good. You know, whatever. And then that kind of went the way of the dodo. Now I think everybody's eliminated the sequential, other than maybe Eric, right, in the 38 truck.
Well, Bryce has a sequential.
Well, I was going to get there.
Okay, sorry.
Potts has one too.
And then everybody said it's going to be the turbo. You know, once they saw Josh qualifying up front and running up front and winning races, that was going to be the way to go. And that obviously hasn't caught on, even though it's an awesome power plant. You know, there's a lot of talk about big blocks. There's a lot of talk about four-wheel drives. Now we're talking about the sequential shift coming back in. You know, I think that's one of the brilliant parts about Trophy Truck is there are so many different ways to combine it. You can do whatever you want as long as it's normally aspirated in score and it's open and best in the desert. But Andy, to you, a guy that's a historian in the sport, a guy who knows the stats, a guy who's lived in it since he was born, where are we in this development? I mean, I know that you've played around four-wheel drive ideas. Everybody's talking about it. Where do you really think our sport is right now? Are we going to see split classes eventually?
I would hate for it to get to that point, you know, because I still think that, you know, the four-wheel drives, I don't think they're not 80% proven yet. You know, some guys had some success at this race. Bryce didn't have a drivetrain failure. He had a bad flat tire and a jack issue. I think that they're definitely getting there, and it's coming. I think it's happening probably sooner than I thought it would have, which is why I chose to build a two-wheel drive truck, you know, only 8 months ago. But it's fascinating because, you know, we were talking about the 42-inch tire earlier, so it kind of went 42-inch tire was the next thing, and that's what everyone's going to have. You're going to have to build trucks that could accept a 42-inch tire, and a lot of guys were starting to build trucks that could clear a 42-inch tire. They went from there to either the turbo or the you know, manually shifted transmissions where you have 4 or 5, 6 speeds, whereas the normal automatic transmission only has 3 speeds. And it's kind of gone from there now to now the all-wheel drives are really making a big push. So I think it's fascinating, you know, just kind of the development, what's going on in the sport. I definitely think all-wheel drive it's going to be the way to go. If it's not, you know, in 2019 next year, it's halfway through the year, or it's now.
Well, we're already seeing
guys can have races now and not have issues, but then again they go to other races and they have issues. So it's kind of a crapshoot on who's going to build it, what kind of components you're going to have in it, and kind of the engineering that's going into behind the development to make them live.
I think one other thing to take into consideration in this conversation is that the courses, and I'm talking specifically about Baja, have gotten I mean,
thrashed.
Way gnarlier, way rougher, right? And I'm sure the four-wheel drive is an advantage in some places. My thing is reliability. I think if it was the score races of 7 and 10 years ago where we're racing on those graded roads far more often,
right,
then I think it becomes a factor way quicker because I think, sorry, I hit the table. Austin said I was going to be fired if I did that. I think the reliability would be there, and that's where I'm at right now is I think the four-wheel drive is amazing, and I actually think that Josh is really keyed in on something. I think he says it feels a little bit sluggish, and he wants more power. I kind of think the genius behind the RPM truck is that it does live, and it has been successful over the last few years getting to the finish line. So I think the more you put that brute power to it, it's going to start being tougher and tougher for those trucks to stay together. Especially, you know, there's right now what's cool is there's a few different ways to skin the cat with the transfer case and how people are building them. I think that's just more and more development. Has Menzies landed on the spot? Jesse's driven the truck. He can give us a lot of feedback. Maybe with the Hughesmans and Menzies together, maybe they've found the magic token, but it remains to be seen on a rough race.
Right, and that's really the question is how are you going to get the car to live? It doesn't matter if you're the fastest for the first 70% of the race. If you can't get to the finish line, then it really doesn't make any difference. One of the things that the four-wheel drive does do versus two-wheel drive is it'll actually pull you through the bumps. So if you can imagine a two-wheel drive truck, it'll go and the front wheels are just kind of, you know, they're just dead weight and they're pounding into the bump in front of them, where the all-wheel drive pulls you through. If the car gets a little bit upset or whatever, stepping through there, you just, instead of having to trail brake a little bit like you do in the two-wheel drives, you just mash on the gas a little bit more, and the car will true itself back right back up. It's just, it is, I'm a firm believer in that's where we're going to be. Yeah. And just like if you remember when side-by-sides first got introduced, you know, the big question is who's going to build one to actually get to the finish of a race, right? Mm-hmm. And now you have...
Now they look like Class 10 cars.
Exactly. And so...
What's the difference?
And it happened...
I mean, really.
But it happened really fast, right?
Right.
I mean, they went from not being able to finish a race to now they're pretty competitive. I mean, they're fast.
So the transition of the UTV has... And Johnny, you can maybe talk to this. The transition of the UTV has gone from golf cart to... Wow, those things are pretty cool too. Holy crap, those things are badass. They're running on 35-inch tires. The geometry is growing. It's getting bigger. It's instead of being competitive with a 1600 car, now it's competitive with a 10 car. And is there a possible transition that maybe we're looking at it wrong, where the trophy truck builders are going to get to that four-wheel drive? Is it something that the UTVs can someday come up to the trophy trucks? Is there a transition there that could go that way? Will the four-wheel drive solution come from the UTV ranks coming to trophy truck versus a traditional trophy truck builder building that truck?
And
could it?
So like the four-wheel drive in the Razor, I raced the Cabo race, when they had that race at Score, Cabo
500.
And you guys, I don't know if you were there, but the beginning of that race was just graded tight dirt roads, and it was all like quarter minus, really slick. And you guys, of course, never looked at UTV times compared to you, but I'm looking at my times versus trophy trucks and 6100s and stuff. My Razor was so fast because the four-wheel drive was pulling me through the corners, and even not saying that I was a great driver, but
obviously you are a great driver, Johnny. So don't say that again, okay? You just won Vegas Reno, and you won a lot.
It was all him.
Okay.
No, it was.
So I had 10 minutes in that first 100-mile section, whatever, on anybody else, and like his truck, our Razors, I forgot what action they used to lock the front diff, and ours has slip in it. So same thing, Articat had slip between the front and the rear drive. So they were doing it, which it's a lot easier for the UTVs to do it because they're dealing with 60 horsepower, 80 horsepower. Now we're 130, whatever. But they're also, you know, like Polaris's latest greatest cars, bigger front diff and bigger ratchet mechanisms. So they're dealing with it the same thing so that we don't break just front axles racing. And that's what, you know, Jesse's engineering for his truck is. It's just time and figuring it out to get it done to make the stuff live.
And Christian, you guys are building one right now with Mason Motorsports. So you guys obviously think that might be part of the solution or part of the future of the sport?
Yeah, obviously, we've had a couple trucks from the Mason Bros. We had our Pacifico 6100. That was a championship-winning 6100 truck, and then sold that. That's now Bill Macbeth's truck, and he's racing that in Best in the Desert. So he built us another 6100 right away after we sold it. Ended up going one race, raced it Parker 2017, sold it, and then the agreement was that we were going to wait a little bit to see if the four-wheel drive gets dialed, and if we think it's going in the right direction, we were going to go that path. And obviously having Larry Connor putting the funds towards developing it, that was a huge plus to us. And a few months ago, we just decided to pull the trigger. We're confident that the Mason brothers are going in the right direction, and hopefully you can get a couple of races in it before the King of the Hammers race.
It's actually very nice with the Sourapas family. So I actually took Steve's build spot from Mason to have my truck built in time for the Parker race this year, because they were still kind of up in the air on the two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive.
I'm just saying that I was the last person to team up with Steve, and we had good times. We were the top 5, so I'm hoping that Steve's smart enough to not put his kids in that truck and to allow myself and he to get in that truck and show the whippersnappers what to do. Steve, if you're listening, you are simply one of the greatest drivers of all time, in case I didn't say that already, and I'm right here when you need me.
That's just how I feel about Jesse with his four-wheel drive truck. His best driver all time. If he needs a co-driver, I'm here.
So you say the truck's going to debut at the Best in the Desert Laughlin race.
That's as far as I know.
In October.
You know, with my
You
dad.
don't know if you're going to be there, if Steve's going to be there,
Well,
Brett.
I'll probably be there with pom-poms to support.
That's 6 weeks from now, by the way.
To support Steve?
To support my dad and
nice.
Brett.
Okay.
Brett's still, even though we had bad luck at Vegas Reno, he's still in contention for Best in the Desert Championship. So
Okay.
we're pulling really hard. He's going to race the number 88 Herp Silver Bullet truck there, and then we might debut the.
You're good with the sponsor plugs. It's good. I'm paying attention. I'm watching.
I don't go to USC for no reason. I need to take PR classes.
Pulling it down right there. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up. We're going to start taking some questions. We'll have some closing comments, but Fish is going to take over the mic and direct questions to who he wants to point him at, and talk about people that are viewing and watching at home. Remember, share it, like it, let everybody know what we're doing. That way we can have more fun off-roading.
Yeah, we had quite a few questions coming in, so maybe just whoever wants to jump on the question, and we'll do one answer.
That's a free-for-all.
Yeah. All right, so how important is the team behind you? The team?
It's everything. Go next.
Everything. Okay, everything. The next one. Who is Joey D? Is he still racing?
Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Next.
Okay, UTV Inc. says Johnny's got Marlboro. What's the story behind that?
I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm trying to quit smoking. So.
If anybody wants to answer those other questions, the team question I think is
Josh,
a good one.
how much horsepower is your big block, the new one you're talking about?
The one I'm building for myself is 1,100, but they're about 1,000.
What is mine?
1,000.
Man, he's got 100 more horsepower than you.
Well, I'm the guinea pig. I'm the Danzio guinea pig, so we're putting sauce in mine, and rods might shoot out the side, or they might not. But that's if it works good for me. Like a lot of our engines have the technology we learned out of the turbo engine in it. So there's a lot of stuff in those heads and things that a lot of the guys don't do. We pulled apart, bought it. You know, we've seen a lot of insides of lots of engines, and
next question.
I always try the
Stop,
tricks.
Josh.
I like that, Jesse.
All right. What do you guys think about active shocks in the trophy truck class? Like being able to adjust the shocks on the go?
100% big believer. I was fortunate enough to drive Bryce's truck, and it had that setup in it, and I can tell you it's the real deal.
So there you go. Might be seeing more of that in the future. All right. What do you guys think about a lightweight Dakar style all-wheel drive? You think that they can hang with the trophy trucks? We know that the VWs came over before the drive. No.
Hell no.
No, but what I would like is a trophy truck enclosed with a windshield and everything in it. All-wheel drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
AC and heat. Yep.
We've already.
Cameron wants a heated steering wheel for sure.
For sure. Hey, Sparko's making me a heated steering wheel right now.
Finally
Don't tell
getting
anybody.
it. It's only been 10 years.
Shameless sponsor plug.
All right, what else do we have? All right, just
ask some random questions. Come on, Fish, get some.
This is the time to get questions in.
Yeah, you guys got to submit some more.
So hey, while we got you on the show, speaking of questions, let's talk about the cow incident. How gnarly was that? And in the video, it's really hard to tell exactly what happens. Obviously, the cows walk out in front of you. Do you turn a little bit to try to avoid, or was the motion that we see purely from straight on the cow, and it kind of sends you off to the left side a little bit?
Honestly, that was probably the biggest misconception that people saw just watching it. I never turned. I slammed on the brakes to try and reduce the force of impact, and there's no way I was going to miss them. Like, they were right across the course, and I was going 112 on a road that I've been across so many times.
And how much vision did you have on each side at that point? There's nothing, right?
No.
Bushes.
Well, there's bushes, and honestly, if I would have tried to miss them, the same result would have happened. So I plowed over the cows. Still, when I slammed on the brakes, like anybody who's driven on loose surfaces knows that whichever way the truck's kind of slightly pitched is where it's going to go. So I kind of got a little sideways when I hit them. And then my initial thought was, well, crap, we're going to be out of the race now. I'm going to get out of the truck and the whole front's going to be ripped off. But as I was thinking that, I just started tumbling. And I was like, okay, if this is the real deal, what do? Do I relax? And I felt like I was crashing for like 10 minutes. And after watching the video, it was like 9 seconds. So then kind of like was a little dazed, got out of the car and looked at my co-driver. I'm getting out of the car, like we're off the course. I get out and I see we're right in the middle of the course. I knew it was a dangerous situation, and we got out and pulled our fire extinguisher and tried to flag down as many cars as possible. And unfortunately for this guy, he was in somebody's dust, and if it wasn't for his superb reflexes, he would have T-boned the truck straight on, but he actually got just the rear of it, but it still ended his day, and he got to spend the night out there with the cow's corpses.
So did it rip the front of your truck off when you hit the cow? Did it break the front of the truck off?
Yeah, it broke the A-arm, and the spindle was all shattered. And honestly...
You think from hitting the cow or from rolling?
Yeah, I would say from rolling.
Probably from rolling, but honestly, most of the damage was cosmetic, to be honest. It was when they pulled all the panels off at Herb's, I think they decided just to cut the front of the truck off, and then the rear was actually fairly intact. The cab didn't take any dent, so it was really just a full cartwheel.
More questions, Fish?
Yeah, just a couple more real quick. What do you guys think about Baja 1000 qualifying at the Speedway?
Horseshit.
No one likes it.
Nobody likes it. All right.
I think obviously there was a big push. For those that don't know, a lot of drivers got together to try to push and change that. I totally respect SCORE for what they're doing with the SEMA tie-in. I really feel like we should be qualifying in Baja for Baja.
There could be a SEMA tie-in without having us qualify there. We can all take our trucks there, and no one comes out to the
We would do that to
us.
support SCORE, I think, and you guys feel free to speak up. I really wish we were qualifying in the same situation we're racing.
Well, it might not directly reflect to this race, but I'm a firm believer in qualifying it how you race it. Like, can't touch it.
I think that's a good point. I think that qualify them and park them. I love
impound,
that. That way
impound.
you don't have people doing
I like
special
the
stuff.
Best in the Desert impounds, like the Nevada 2000. They had a big impound. It was actually cool going to the start line of the race. All the trucks are behind a fence. Everyone's climbing in their trucks together. It was actually like no one was allowed in. Yeah. Only the driver, co-rider, band of drivers. It was really cool.
And we're starting to see some of that. I think you guys touched on Austin. Now he's racing a little bit over in Europe, and that's the way they do it over there. And it's just a nice, it's a good format.
Yeah.
One thing, it's easier on your crew because they do their work and then they can rest, right?
I think what we should do, if we're going to qualify at the short course, we should mark the springs, we should mark the shocks, we should mark the tires, the transmissions and the motors, and all that stuff has to go to the start line at the Baja 1000.
Impound.
And if you break something, well, you can't impound from Vegas to Baja, but if you break something, then you lose 10 spots or whatever it is, or you go to the back of the pack, or if you have to change something. And SCORE did try to do that with the transmission thing, but then they never enforced it. But I think that would be a solid thing to do, because I really think that it's ridiculous. I mean, what has happened is we have two separate races now. Mm-hmm. We're prepping and building a truck to go to qualifying, and then we're basically prepping a ton of it and changing it to go to the Baja 1000.
Somebody forgot to tell me that was going on whenever I bought my trophy truck and showed up to qualifying. I didn't know that I had to get special brake pads, or there was special brake pads.
No one's going to tell you anything. Now you're telling everybody.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know all that stuff, so...
I tried to sell you a transmission, but you didn't want to buy it.
I thought the guy said, who changes the transmission? That takes all the fun out of it.
Just so you know, when we go to the races, we don't do that. We do some stuff, but we don't do big stuff. And we race the same setup that we qualify on. And me personally, although I don't know that I have the talent to be first, we never really try to go that fast. We're always just trying to stay right in the top 10, because I've already killed the truck at qualifying, and so has Josh. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I killed your truck.
I know, thank you. When am I going to get to drive your truck in qualifying?
And mine. I broke mine too.
Yeah, so I think you got to keep the equipment together. Some people have a different philosophy. That's great, but we like the way we've been running. More questions?
I wish
a couple more.
I do wish we had more time because I'd love to hear about Jesse's European experience going out there and all the cool shit you did, man.
Stuff.
We will be back here with Fishgistics for the Baja HQ grand opening on September 13th. So we will be able to have a panel of people, be able to have some fun. And if you guys want to come down, we're going to be giving away prizes and goodies, and we're going to have some fun competitions, so to speak. You might want to show up with those guns, Josh. We'll see what kind of push-up skills you got. There will be a dunk tank for your favorite trophy truck drivers.
That's pretty cool.
And we're just letting some of the cats out of the bag. September 13th, Baja HQ in San Juan Capistrano. Shameless plugs. Continue with the questions.
All right,
Fish.
just a couple more real quick. Each of you guys pick who you think is the fastest off-road driver. You cannot pick yourself. Just go down the line. Start over there.
Fastest. Well, let's quantify.
Yeah, what are we
the
talking
guy
about?
that's most
They just
the
said
best.
fastest. I don't know. Like the best. Like who do you want to beat? Like who's the guy that you're most worried about when you go to the race?
Rob Mack.
I agree.
Okay.
Boy, Skip. I'm trying to
You
think.
can't skip.
I'm trying to
we
think.
went in order.
I think it's between Rob Mack and Robbie Gordon.
Okay.
Rob Mack or Jason Voss?
Rob Mack.
All right, Josh.
Boy, I don't know. I almost got to say Andy.
Oh,
Well, there we go.
thanks, Josh.
Andy's smooth. And
Andy
consistent.
would be in
He's
my
smooth
top
and consistent.
three.
Well, and I'll tell you why I picked that. One,
Depends on the race.
because he's won
Two.
more races than any of
yes.
us.
Well, if you look,
I guess that's
in
pretty
my
good,
in
right?
my opinion, if you look at the win ratio,
Right.
I don't think that they're. I mean, Rob's got the most wins for sure.
Yeah, but when you
But
look
the
at
win ratio-
from the outside, looking at the truck going by, who is the most impressive? I really do believe Robbie Gordon.
Oh,
I think that
he's
Robbie Gordon-
yeah, he's out of his
Unbelievable.
fucking mind,
And
man,
I-
for sure.
Who
So-
cares if he finishes?
You can
He
get anything
looks
going.
good when he's going.
There's no doubt that Robbie is incredibly fast and he's very confident. And we've talked about Robbie on the show before, and he's definitely one of the most formidable drivers in the sport.
Yeah.
There is a line from the book of the piece that it says nobody remembers who won the race, but they do remember who looked the coolest coming through main pit.
Right.
Robbie wins
Obviously.
that for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, Robbie's on that. Rob Mack's never going to win the coolest through the pit.
I honestly have really tried hard
Jesse,
to do that.
Jesse, I was Parker not too many years ago, maybe 8 years ago. You looked very cool, but ended the race.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
I
I
used to-
actually had radioed in and told everybody, get your cameras out.
Yeah, I used to love
before
hauling
I
ass to
wrecked.
the pits, man.
You got
It
some
was
more questions
so
there?
fun.
Final one. What do you guys think of that King of the Hammers trophy truck only race?
I'm all in, and the things that I love the most about it is there's no bikes, there's no UTVs, neither in front of us. There's no 6100s a lap. Anybody that raced Parker last year can tell you all about the 40 6100 trucks. But please, everybody comment what you think. I'm a huge believer in what Dave Cole does. I've worked at King of the Hammers 6 of the last 10 years, and he treats everybody exceptionally well, and he definitely is in it for everybody to be stoked.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm going to be there. Going to try and win the thing and, sling some dirt around. And I think, the more competition, the better. Competition breeds excellence for everyone. Tire company, wheel companies, series, promoters.
Sure.
The more the merrier, and I think it's good for the sport.
Maybe before we wrap up, we can ask how we think people should qualify to get to that race. Next, what do you think about that?
I think it's awesome, and I don't know, Dave. I haven't really, followed all that stuff too much, except for the fact that how fabulous of a job that he does putting on those races. And so, when you invite and you limit it to 30 guys, and you handpick like the best guys or what somebody's opinion is of the best guys, that competition is going to be epic, and then put a prize in there too. That's cool too. I mean, everybody likes to win some money,
Yeah.
We're always out there like just blowing money, so getting some back would be nice.
I think it's going to be iconic. I've never been to King of the Hammers, but I've heard all the hype about it, and having Dave Cole put it on with that kind of money going up to the overall winner, it's about time that we've had a race like this, so I'm excited about it.
Johnny?
I'm just waiting for my invitation.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
Vegas
sure.
Reno. So
I'm sure
we'll
it's
talk
coming
about that
down.
in a second. Jesse, what do you think
I'm
about
going. I like the idea. I like the fact that I think there'll probably only be about 4 all-wheel drives there.
My count says there could be more, but we'll see.
I
Let's
think
talk
it's a
about
better
this because this is probably hotly contested. I'm sure Dave came out and said I think 30, and but how do you guys think he should qualify it? And I'm not talking about for start positions. How do you quantify someone's ability? How should they be there? Should it be 30? Should it be based on What should it be based on? I have my opinion. I'll wait.
Truck first.
Say it again.
Shouldn't you have to own a trophy truck?
I think that's a good first qualification.
I saw 3 guys on there that, I know they're great racers, and I'm sure they can bum a trophy truck, but I don't have the big history that you guys have, so I look at the names and I go, oh, that's really cool. I don't remember him ever racing or winning a race.
What do you think?
I know their name's big.
Yeah. How would you quantify someone to go to that race? What do you? And I'm not saying that Dave's going to listen to what we're saying.
No, it's a good question, and I really hadn't given it much thought. But probably for starters, say you've had to have participated and been the driver of record over the last 36 months. So start 36 there.
36 months is a good number.
And then maybe start trying to break it down into you had. I believe it should be performance based, right?
I 100% agree. Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, performance-based. How will you qualify? I think it's just...
I'm not talking about how we start and qualify. We're talking about how you get to that race. How are you chosen to get there?
I would agree with Jesse. Just track record.
Josh, you got some more specifics? Andy's... See, now there's a reason why I waited for Andy for last, because he's going to be thinking about this. He's going to have an answer that whether you like it or not, he's going to have an answer. So now you've got halfway through here. So now
I agree with. Well, I'll just tell you what my thoughts are. I agree with the performance base for sure, but I also think that if you're trying to, he has sponsors and people that are going to be paying for this. So I'll just call a spade. Like I'm sure one of the drivers that doesn't have a trophy truck is Kyle LeDuc, right? He's not only sponsored by Monster, he's sponsored by Toyo. Who are the 2 key sponsors there? The guy's a badass. He's very good. His dad has a truck. He may have access to a truck. But sure. Going back to what Johnny says, should he be invited because he doesn't specifically own one? I don't know that either, So my question is then is it at the discretion of the race director for his sponsors to say,
well,
hey,
for 100%, it is at the discretion of the race director or promoter because it's their event. And let us never forget, we all love Score, we all love Best in the Desert, we all love Snore, and we love this King of the Hammers race because they're putting on the races for us to go race at. So don't ever be mistaken that our bitching or our comments or our angles are saying anything negative against the promoter. We're just saying how we feel.
But so on that, I got to digress then. I think that obviously, performance based, that's got to be warranted. But also, I got to tell you, I think that if you have a popular driver, somebody that as a promoter you want to have in there, I think that they should be, looking at like sponsored. They gotta sell the package, right?
For sure, 100% fair.
If they're saying, hey, like I said, I'll go back to Kyle because he's a very high profile guy. Yeah, I think he should be invited because of the 2 main sponsors of the event. Whether he can come up with a truck or not. If he says, "Hey, I can't make it," then
not a bad stat for Kyle either was the fact that he qualified first for the Baja 1000 and Trophy Truck a couple years ago, and he led 500 miles or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's a badass for sure. But but going back to Johnny's point, he doesn't own his own truck.
Right.
And I don't,
and not that I was disqualifying. I just, when I first looked at the list, was my.
Totally fair. Now we're gonna shift to Andy. I'll have a comment as well. Now, Andy, you're not allowed to say performance-based because we already know you're there, and these guys have all said that. You're going to have to dig down a little deeper, quantify it a little bit more. What would be the qualifying credentials needed if Andy was the race director and tear it down just a little bit because I want to dig in a little bit on this.
Having been around the sport for so long and raced against most all the guys that we saw on the list and the guys that race Trophy Truck today, I could pick all the guys that I think should be there that would put on the best show and the best race because in the end I think that's what the promoter wants. I think that's what the fans want to see. They want to see action. They want to see the best of the best competing against the best of the best. Guys who are always qualifying well. Obviously they're very fast drivers. They're very good drivers. Kyle being a great example. Because his affiliation with Monster and Toyo, but qualified first the Baja 1000. He led the Baja 1000. He's obviously a hell of a short course racer. He has a hell of a pedigree behind him. But it's tough. It's a loaded question. There's so many different ways that you can skin
break it down. Give us 2 examples of ways someone should qualify.
Well, it's hard not to say performance based because I feel like anyone who has won a trophy truck race, in a trophy truck class should have an invitation.
So how many people would that be? 7?
Right.
Okay, let's just. I mean, just being totally fair.
I think that'd be 20.
I think but you can't go back 20 years. We're talking
say like
about
the last 3 years.
Okay, last 2 years. How many guys have actually won a trophy truck race? Raise your hand if you won a trophy truck race in the last 2 years.
I won a more race. Does that count?
Won one, right?
No, more race does not count. That would be a lower level race, I think. You'd have to race. You'd have to have won, in my opinion, one of the big 5.
I haven't won
maybe
one of
6.
That's less than 10. For sure.
It's for sure. Okay, so now you got to build the field, right? Because there has to be more people. So is it you take the last 24 months, or one of you said 36 months? Do you take that time frame and you say anybody that's finished in the top 5?
Yeah, maybe podium.
Maybe someone that's they podium. Maybe they finished in the top 7 if you want to open it up far enough. But I think that there's some kind of quantifying level there. Now, if you did it only over 2 years, you might exclude some people that really could have a shot at winning. I'm not sure.
The thing is that I'm on a group text with some guys, right? My cousins, Trav, a couple other guys. We talked about this a lot when it was announced. And you know, like I said, I've raced against all these guys. I know all these guys. I can go and tell you who the fastest 20, 30 guys are that should be invited, hands down, and they should be in the race.
What about if you took the winners of the races over the last 3 years, let's say, right? The 5 big races. That's only 15 races, and some guys have won multiple times, and those guys picked their top 20 guys.
So Andy and Rob get to sit in a room and pick everybody?
Yeah.
Well, you guys just won Vegas to Reno. Josh won a race a couple years ago, right? I mean, there's other guys.
Yeah, I haven't won one of those big 5s. So those are
and
hard.
That's why I don't think it matters. Like any best in the desert race, you know, you're competing against Voss, Lofton, Matney. You know, there's competition in Best in the Desert and the Score Series across all the races.
I agree, but there's some races that.
But also, you're picking those big 5 are also long races. You know, we're talking not a long race. So would you go?
Well, what would you pick? What would you pick? Laughlin?
I would just say all of them. You know what? Hey, if you've won a Best in the Desert or Score race in the last 3 years, or if you've won qualifying, or like Dale Dondale's not on that list. You know,
so he was definitely someone I was thinking
badass.
about when you talk about it. You only take the last 2 years because Dale hasn't been racing over the last couple of years.
He's been driving for other guys and stuff.
He's got the speed, but and this is the hard part for the promoter. And back to what Josh said, I do believe there should be sponsor exemptions because the sponsors are the ones making it happen.
Right.
I don't care what sponsor it is. If they have a viable contender and they have a viable piece of equipment, okay. But I don't think that people should be allowed to come to the start line
it has to be
in a
legitimate.
vehicle that's not legitimate. I don't think that should be off the table.
For sure, yeah. You can't show up in a Razor, you know. You're like, hey,
Travis, you're smiling over there. You like it? You don't like it?
Well, I'll tell you how to be. I figured it out from the air.
Travis gets to sit in a room and pick them.
I think it's Dave's race. I see everybody trying to fix it and come up with different plans for the race. It's Dave's race. He came up with $100,000. He should be able to get to do 100%. Whatever he wants to do.
Oh, for sure. I think we're just discussing to discuss.
I do agree with that, and I've been a really big fan of the format of the race. I haven't been to King of the Hammers personally, but everyone raves about how it's run, the coverage of it, the return on the investment for the sponsors, all the fans. It's on the internet live. You can watch 15 different locations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You have to be careful how you're marketing the race. You know what I mean? Because at first it was marketed as the best of the best trophy truck guys battling it out, winner take all, $100,000.
Right.
And then I saw a couple of names on the list. Didn't agree with a couple of the names, whether that's my position or not.
You're allowed to have your own opinion. So
yes. And so that's just what I'm saying is just be careful how it's marketed. If it's the best of the best, make it the best of the best. If it's the top 50 trophy truck guys in the world and they all have to qualify in, and the 50 that have the best qualifying times race, then that's what it is.
It's going to be good for us as racers, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
Just because he puts it on.
And I think that if people aren't able to go and it's sought after, it makes it more important,
100%.
But there has to be some way to delineate.
Or do you just say, hey, show up and qualify. And the top 30 guys go.
It's like the main event. It's like the main event in Supercross. Right. If there was a bunch of yahoos on the track all at the same time with the fast guys messing with the race, the race would be compromised because of that.
Oh, I don't know how many problems you've had in qualifying or whatever, but when you start in the back, like back, or you start in the front, almost never get any dust in the front. You're just going with all those fast guys, but you're in the back. You're like,
I get a lot of dust when I qualify. This was my first race where I ever felt that I was able to get on it like I could drive.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's why qualifying so important.
Yeah. One suggestion I had is, sure, open it up to 50 trucks. If they have the qualifications, figure out what that qualification is. Do the first 40-mile loop and eliminate 20 right out of that first loop and then restart them.
Or even go ahead and start the race and just have checkpoints. And if you're not traveling in the top 30, then you have to stop. And then start pulling people off of the race course.
Well, they can do it by the loops because they have that luxury that they're going to have multiple loops. So if you come around the end of the loop, you stop all the trucks, 20 are out. You do the longer loop, another 20 are out. Then only 10 race the last 2 loops.
I'll just tell you that I'm glad I'm not a promoter.
Me too.
And I'm
man, it's so gnarly.
Dealing with all of us in a room, hearing all the complaints, not just us, but all the guys that have an opinion.
Well, if you loved it or hated it, this is Fishgistics and Austin Fish Farmer, the brainchild behind it. My name's Cameron Steele. This is Andy McMillin, and we were your co-hosts today. But really, we had some really great commentary from a lot of people. We want to thank Jacob Argubright for coming in, the winner of Vegas Reno on the motos. We want to thank Cody Parkhouse, your winner in the Class 1 or 1,500 cars at Vegas Reno. I want to thank AJ Austin Jones for being here, winner of the Baja 500 in the Spec Trophy Trucks. Of course, Josh Daniel, who always has an opinion. And notice I didn't say an S on the end of your name that time. Christian Sourapas, it's been great to hear from you, and finally good to hear the story. You didn't turn when you hit the cow. And, I mean, massive congratulations, Johnny. You have done it exactly how Andy and myself have talked about the right way. You started at the bottom. You worked your way up through success in that. And I'm not saying the UTVs are the bottom. I'm saying in lower classes. Got to the 6100s, worked your way through that with success, and now you've reached the pinnacle of our sport. Well, winning the Baja 1000 is the pinnacle of sport, but you're there winning in the trophy truck class, and congratulations to you. My hat's off to you. And Jesse, of course, I would say you are an icon in the sport. Great job, and you made the dreams of many people come true. You sold Johnny his truck. You sold me my truck on payments. This team would not exist here if it wasn't for you, and I thank you for that very much. That's it for Fishgistics this time around. Next time will be from the Baja HQ at the grand opening, where everybody is invited to come down and comment right inside the room here. Like I said, we'll have the dunk tank. We'll have a push-up contest. We'll have some giveaways from some of our fine product sponsors. But for the most part, we're going to tell lies and pretend we're in the dust in Baja, just smiling and having a good time. That's going to do it from the Baja HQ. I'm Cameron Steele saying goodbye from my buddy Andy McMillin and Austin Fish Farmer, and of course, Travis Clark, who's behind the scenes madman. We'll see you next time when we go live from Fishgistics.